All right, my name is Ryan Giffen. I am the Vice President here at Premier Speakers Bureau. We are sitting down today with Dr. Tony Wagner. Tony Wagner is a leader and an innovator in the world of education. And a little bit about Tony before we start. Just a few facts. He's a prominent educator. He's an author of 5 books. And he is an innovation education fellow at Harvard, as well as he was the co-founder and co-director of the Harvard Change Leadership Group. He did that for 10 years before moving on to some incredible things that he's doing right now in the world of education. So, Tony, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, Ryan, and I want to start by thanking you guys for doing the great job you've done for me in the last year.
You're very welcome, and to add to that, Tony has been just an all-star with us for many of our education events. We have groups coming to us looking for someone to talk about change, innovation in the education world, and Tony is the go-to person for that, so we always do appreciate that. Well, let's get started. My first question for you, Tony, is if you can, in less than 1 minute, how did you become the Tony Wagner of today?
Well, Ryan, in a word, I felt profoundly miseducated as a student. Mm-hmm. And so I decided when I first became a teacher to try to do things differently. And I guess my whole career has been really searching for the best ways to motivate students to develop the new skills all students are going to need for careers, college, and citizenship. So my career has been kind of research and development all the way down the road.
In your books, you've been writing since 1994, and even into this coming April, there's been a central theme of change. Change is almost associated with the name Tony Wagner. Why is change so predominant?
You know, Ryan, the world is changing at an extraordinarily rapid rate. And the ways in which our students are growing up, now growing up digital, is also causing profound change. Whereas a lot of educators talk about the need for reform, my view is that that's the wrong analysis of the problem. We don't need to tweak our schools. We don't need to reform them. We need to reimagine them, reinvent them for the 21st century. And that requires a very different kind of leadership and an understanding of this changing world that we're moving towards in a very quick way.
Absolutely. You know, in your book, The Global Achievement Gap, you introduced the book with a quote from Einstein. The formulation of the problem is often more important than the solution. With that being said, the Finland phenomenon, what is it?
Right. Well, you're referring to the documentary film I recently completed with Robert Compton. And in the film, we attempt to try to understand what is it about Finland that makes its education system so incredibly outstanding, and what can we learn from it? I mean, Finland is the highest performing education system in the world by almost any standard. But they didn't start out that way. 35 years ago, it was a kind of an underperforming system in a rural agrarian economy. And now it's one of the most innovative economies in the world, and everyone attributes that evolution to their education system. So it was a great, fun project, and I learned a lot. And you know, Ryan, there's going to be a lot of video associated with my new book, Creating Innovators, as well.
Absolutely. To kind of ask just one more follow-up question on the Finland phenomenon, I saw so many things in that talked about so many things that are working well in the Finland system that are sometimes negatively perceived in America. For instance, teacher unions and allowing teachers to keep their job, tenure, as well as leaving no child behind. Those things often produce a negative argument or a discussion in America. What makes it so different in Finland?
Well, there's a lot of things, Ryan. First of all, 35 years ago, they really knew they had a crisis in education. And the country came together in a bipartisan fashion to really transform their education system, emerging out of that sense of crisis. So many people think we have a pretty good education system already, and I think that's a mistaken belief. And to the extent that we have a problem, many people think it's simply a matter of fixing the teachers. Get rid of the unions, create more charter schools, get rid of tenure, fix the teachers, and we'll solve the problem. Now, I do agree that improving the quality of teaching is absolutely central to transforming education, and the Finns have done that. But simply getting rid of unions doesn't change the teaching profession. You can go to states that have no unions or schools that don't have unions, and you don't see dramatically better teaching, Ryan. It's not a problem of unions per se. It is how we select and prepare teachers. And we need to do a very different and dramatically better job of both things.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I saw that every teacher in Finland has a bachelor's and master's degree, as well as a whole year of training in the classroom before they are given their own, classroom. Do you think that is that something that America has to change in order to improve?
Absolutely, no question. We have to give teachers much, much better preparation. The Finns have almost the equivalent of a medical residency for teachers. So the teachers are spending a long period of time really working with and studying the results of excellent teaching before they can even have their own classroom. The quality of teaching I saw there among the student teachers was often better than the quality of teaching I see among even the veteran teachers here, because they're getting so much more feedback. I don't blame our teachers. They work alone all day, every day in a classroom with almost no real feedback on their practice. How do you get better if you don't get feedback?
Absolutely. Tony, you're known as a strong voice, influencer in the world of education in America. How will your new book, coming out in April, Creating Innovators, continue that reputation for you? What are you going to be able to do? Yeah,
I'm incredibly excited about this book. I have to tell you, when I started this project 3 years ago, I wasn't at all sure I could pull it off. I really am trying to understand the question of how do we develop the capacities of all young people to become innovators and entrepreneurs. What's very, very clear is that we need a different kind of an economy for the 21st century. We need more young people to solve more different kinds of problems, and so add value, generate jobs and wealth. So what I've learned is that many young people are innovators in spite of their schooling, not because of it. So in this book, I interview young people who are highly innovative. I then go interview their parents. I then go interview the teachers whom they told me have made the greatest difference in their lives. I interview employers. I go to places like Google and Apple to understand how they create a culture of innovation. So out of all of that mashup, I really come to understand how do we, in fact, create many, many more young people as innovators? How do we do it as parents, as teachers, as mentors, and as employers? And I think people are going to find this book appealing to a very, very wide audience, and I think there will be a lot of surprises in it for quite a number of people.
You mentioned the experiences and the education coming from outside the classroom. Is that a result of the lack of connecting to a student in the classroom, or is it just the way students have to learn this generation? So is it a classroom problem, or is it a generational trend?
Well, I think we see both. This is a generation that is growing up digital. They're what are called digital natives for the first time.
Right.
Their preferred way of learning is kind of what we're doing now. They're on the internet 24/7. For them, a bad day is a slow internet connection. I'm inclined to be sympathetic to that. So that's their preferred way of learning. They're multitasking in a multimedia universe. Now that presents two challenges for us as educators. On the one hand, I think we need to learn how to use this new technology effectively. But on the other hand, I think we're going to also have to teach students when not to multitask and how to really persevere and develop the muscles of concentration necessary for creative or intellectual work. So it's a double challenge that I think we face in the classroom in the future.
So is the classroom going to continue to be a place where media is introduced and used but limited, or will it become a complete interactive environment, a complete multimedia, almost storm of learning? How will the classroom stay the same, or how will it change?
Well, I think those are part of the questions that educators are addressing now as they think about the future. And I frankly don't yet know what the best kind of digital classroom will look like. I think it'll be a combination of some online or distance learning. The Khan Academy videos are incredibly useful for mastering certain kinds of content. I think it'll always, though, require teachers who are coaches, who can mentor students, who can give them feedback. I don't think we're going to ever have distance learning or online classes that will teach students how to think and communicate effectively. Those require more kind of person-to-person coaching. But there are a lot of ways to deliver that, and there's an enormous amount of content on the internet that needs to be more accessible to students every day in the classroom.
What was your most favorite part about this book? Writing the book or interviews and learning about this book?
Well, I just so enjoyed interviewing these 20-something innovators. You know, I interviewed scores of them, and then I profiled 8 in great depth. They're really inspiring young people, very committed to making a difference in the world, more than they are committed to making money. I also found it utterly fascinating that in every single case, Ryan, the teachers whom they told me made the greatest difference in their lives were themselves outliers and innovators in their education settings. That these were teachers who taught in very different ways and really worked for different kinds of goals in the classroom, which I describe in the book. But the ways in which they were different were remarkably similar across all of those outlier teachers whom I interviewed. So they were outliers within their educational setting, but in a sense, remarkably consistent in what they did together as a group.
That's fascinating. I'm excited to be able to get the book in April and dive into that. Thank you again for your time. One last question, just a few fun ones. Coffee or tea?
Oh man, I grind it myself. 2 cups of good strong coffee in the morning. And here's something to tell folks if they're considering having me come. Please have a little espresso available, preferably after lunch. And I like my little shot of espresso right after lunch.
A little jump start for the morning, right?
Exactly right.
I'm the same way. Well, again, Tony, thank you so much for your time. You're a pleasure to work with. You have been amazing for the groups that we've booked you for. We look forward to many more in 2012. So I hope you have a great holiday break, and we look forward to working with you soon. And I hope all of you guys out there enjoyed what we're talking about, and it's just a glimpse of what Tony can bring to your event. So thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Ryan. I greatly enjoyed it. You have a great holiday, and I want to thank you again for your excellent work. It's a pleasure to work with you.
I appreciate it, Tony. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.